Welcome, everybody, to Hypnosis-Everywhere. And this is a very special show. This is sort of the lead-out show of our last season. And it's going to be, it's not our last season, sorry, the end of this season, sorry. Anyway, that's the wrong terminology. I've been told by my sidekick, Martin Gover, who's always there telling me and keeping me on track. So... So anyway, this is going to be an important sort of show because it's sort of termed in our mind that this is the end of our season. And we've had an important last few sessions, right? We've been having Bruce Lipton and us, of course. And now I wanted to end it up on a really high note because, you know, I had Gary on before, our friend, the shaman, which is Grey Wolf to you. And anyway, Gary was here before, and he had such a great listenership. People were really interested in it, and so I thought it ended up on a really good story-type note. We are always so serious here, and we don't always do teaching you things and telling you things. And not that we're not going to do that, but it's going to be a little more fun than normal. So we're also going to be back. We're taking a bit of a break because I'm going to go teach around the world. I'm going to Australia a lot this year, and Europe, so we won't be back till somewhere in mid-July, and we'll start up Hypnosis Everywhere then, and you'll have all those podcasts to listen to if you're interested while we're gone. All right, so I'm just going to welcome Gary. Say something, Gary.
Hello. Yeah, thank you for having me back on your show again.
Yeah, well, the stories were so great last time, and I just thought, first of all, I thought I'd tell them what we do as a pair of people that do work, because I'm a hypnotist and he's the shaman. So what we had designed was we call them shamanic journeys, and we used to present these just about 2 or 3 times a year. And we've sort of gone down because both of us gotten very busy on other ones, so we have them less than we used to. But it's a journey, different kinds. One is, the first one we ever did was with totems, we were using the killer whale and all the different animals, the bear and all those, and it took you through a journey. Now, when we do the next one, we also did a very spiritual one about chakras and chakra clearing and all that kind of stuff. And then we did one with going back to the ancestors, which has been really well received.
Yes.
Yeah, because most people really, and you know, when we design these, it's sort of interesting because it's not just us doing it, because Gary's guides are in there telling us exactly what they want most of the time. So remember that you can see those, Martin's giving me some instructions again. So he says you can note those shamanic journeys because they are on Hypnosis Everywhere on our page. So if you're interested, you can always see that. Now this, we're going to do a drumming on the way out because the last show we did, the drumming didn't go, drumming inside here went well, but it didn't really spread the sound right to go into the audio for the radio. So we did pre-record this time, and it seems to be much better. So if for any reason it isn't that much better, you can go right to our page and it'll be there and you can click on it on Hypnosis Everywhere. All right. So, but that's what Gary and I do together. But otherwise, there's Gary has been doing this for quite a while, or in the journey, and he started telling them the journey last time we were on. It was all about how it snuck up on him, and he started. Talk about the drumming on the desk again, just so to ease them in.
Well, back in the early days, I was working for a school district and I was cleaning, and my hands would go on the desk and start pounding the desk, not knowing why or what I was doing. And leave at the end of the night with sore knuckles. And the next thing you know, I could hear this voices come out of me, you know, like, and I look around like, you know, what's going on? I mean, this is some sort of weird entity in me or something, or what's happening? But it just felt so good, and I kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And yeah, that's pretty much where it first started.
I know, it's really interesting. And that's sort of around the time I met you, a little shortly after that.
Yes.
Yeah, so we've sort of been on the ride together quite a bit. We used to hang out a lot because both of us are no longer single, but we were single at the time, so we hung around a lot.
Yeah, I remember the days where I'd phone Inez. She lives in a different town than I did. And it'd be like 11:45 at night and say, hey, I'm going to go down to the beach today, which is about 45 minutes away. Why don't you meet me down there in the middle of summer? And the tide would be like way out there. You could walk way out, way out. And it was summertime, so it was obviously warm outside. Not a cloud in the sky, and the moon was shining. And
wasn't it a full moon?
Yeah, and that night it was. There was no breeze or nothing. I would just put up my hands and say a couple of prayers, and next thing you know, the wind would just pick right up and almost blow us over. And I put my hands down, and the wind would stop.
Yep.
You know, I couldn't understand what was going on or why, and I kept doing it different times and trying different things, and different things would happen. It's like, you know, what the hell's going on?
It was all experimentation of what you could do with those powers that they sent through you at the time.
Yes.
So with the prayers, I remember doing that. It was the most interesting, fun stuff ever.
Yeah, I was like, well, did you feel that? Or, oh, did you see that? And what was that? And it took me years to understand what was happening and why. And
yeah, well, I don't think I still understand it why, but otherwise, I think I've seen a lot of it with you.
Well, I think we all understand different things. You know, I mean, like I said before, we're all gifted in our own ways. Mm-hmm. And every single one has a gift to share and to understand who we are.
Yeah, well, there was one time, though, that we had one of the guides show up on the beach. You said, oh, they're here because he sees them with his whatever eyes you sees them with. And he said, oh, that's a nice horse. It was a paint horse, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I said, well, I don't see anything. I wish they'd give me something to know that they're present. And all of a sudden, I started to rock back, and somebody was moving me back and forth. So they said, yeah, we're here.
Yeah, every time we went to the same beach, same place.
Yeah.
The same thing. I would stand there and she'd be wobbling back and forth. I saw trying to push her over. I said, well, what's going on?
I said, well, I asked something, and then here I started moving around.
Yeah,
so I get it.
The spirit's pushing you back and forth.
Yeah, so it's interesting how, you know, they'll let you know when you're present. But if you're just living in your conscious mind, which most of us do, and I do, I'm just like every other human. And then you go, well, really, was that real? Gary always knows it's real.
Well, you know, we all believe in different things. We see things in a different light. I mean, you might have 10 people standing in a row and everyone's going to see or feel something different. It's not always the same.
No. And, you know, when we're doing the journeys, what always really astounds me is afterwards the comments that people have and the stories that they have. And many times it's just like, I remember the one about we were supposed to add the buffalo into one of them. And we said, you know, you're telling us to do this now. The spirit's telling us to do this now. We're doing this tomorrow. I mean, I don't want to do this tomorrow. Well, guess what? A lot of the people saw a buffalo.
Yeah,
and they brought it in anyway. They said that
it wasn't for us to make up our mind. It was the spirits telling us what was going to happen, or, you know, sending them an awareness.
So that teaches you something. Too bad you can't write it up. Just say it.
Yeah, we all have to listen to what's inside of ourselves, in our heart chakra, not our mind, because we'll get lost all the time. So if we can just learn to live from our hearts and listen to our hearts, that's where all the answers is. I believe.
Because if you sort of use that as an analogy, I mean, the conscious mind is that thinking part, right? Yeah. And it's there. But if you go to the heart chakra, that's much more within you. And it's that heart place is sort of what we would consider where we can access the subconscious in that analogy. We have all of them many times. So, but there's lots of good stories. And the stories that I like the best are the ones that Gary tells, because they're much better than when I tell them.
Well, you know, we all have stories in different degrees and different things. And, you know, in my life, it took me a long time to understand who I was and be able to live in both worlds at the same time. It's quite different. Getting two sides of the stories all at once, 24 hours a day. Yeah. You know, I see and I feel and I know, and sometimes you just want to just be a regular person, get on with your day, but it's a whole lot more to it. And you just get comfortable in your own skin. That's just like a lot of people.
Many people say, gee, I wish I had that gift. But be careful what you wish for, because it comes with a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, definitely responsibility.
And a lot of sometimes not so good for you when you're wanting to sleep and you wanted to do this. Gary said he didn't have a very good night last night because it was keeping very busy. So,
I travel probably about 5 or 6 times a night, and where I go, half the time I don't know. Sometimes I do, and wake up and there's spirits at the edge of your bed. Sometimes not good ones, sometimes good ones.
yeah,
Sometimes you know things and see things. You work in the spiritual world, and some days you wake up and you're just exhausted,
yeah,
and you have to start your day.
I know.
You know.
I know. I remember when you first moved into the house because there's some portals where you live, and you told me you want to explain what a portal is to people?
Well, again, I mean, you might ask someone a portal, and 10 different people might give you different answers.
Yeah.
But to me, where we live on our property, we have 7 portals in our land, and that's what I classify as a great big energy center going as high as you can see into the earth. And for me, it's energy and spirits that come and go on my property.
Yeah. I remember when you first moved in, you did get a little irate because
Well,
you were so busy moving in and everything, and there was so many spirits walking around in the house, and you just said, "Leave me alone. I'm going to the bathroom. Just
yeah,
leave me
well,
alone."
I'm coming from a 3-story house, and my wife was coming from a house, and we moved into a little rancher right by the creek, and we just put everything into the house. There were just little tiny walkways at that time. There's nowhere to sleep, so we put the bed down right in the middle of the living room and just exhausted. And we're just stuff must have been piled like 3 or 4 feet high in some spots, just ridiculous. So we're trying to sleep, and my wife kept seeing orbs flying around all night long, and we had a portal in the hallway. So every time you go to the bathroom in the middle of the night or whenever, there's all these spirits, and you wake up and you're half asleep, and there's anywhere from like 50 to 60 spirits in the house and the hallways, and you just say, everyone just leave me alone. I'm going to the bathroom. I'm going back to bed. Just leave me alone. And over time, you just get used to it. It's not a big deal anymore.
I think maybe just also settle into more respect on both sides, maybe.
Yeah. I know people come to the house, and clients and friends, and no one wants to leave because they can feel the energy and it keeps them there. But you have to kind of shove them out sometimes. With us, we're just used to it. It's not a big deal anymore. Just like people's lives, people say, "Wow, that's an amazing life," but after a while, you have amazing things happening over and over and over. It's just everyday life. It's not a big deal anymore.
No. That's what people, but it's the same with everything. In hypnosis, when people change, they come for work and they change. It's the same thing. They suddenly change and it becomes normal.
Yeah.
So it doesn't last very long that, oh my God, this is incredible, because that moves you right into the normalcy of life again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's always really what gets me, is that it's every year, and this being again springtime, every springtime, Gary goes through a lot of changes because they seem to be, it's like an upgrade or something, update. His Microsoft Windows is being updated in spring.
Oh, I get shaky and spaced out there. I'm going to fall over and this and that.
Yeah.
On top of walking and working in the other world and this world, and you try to relate, and what's going on, and sometimes your heart's pounding, but in it all, you have more spiritual working with, you have more energy, you have more guidance, you have more strength, you have more sight. It's just crazy. I mean, it's been going on for years and years, and it's still going on. Yeah, so some people, like my friends and stuff, they can relate because they have it to a different degree too. And I'm sure all the radio listeners,
there's many of them.
They can take bits and pieces out of our stories, and they can relate to that kind of stuff because, things actually are happening out there.
So why is this on a hypnosis show? Because it all comes from the mind. It all goes through our spirit. Everything is connected. And that's why Gary and I work together, because it achieves it's very healing when you go on a journey. For each particular person, right? And that's always good. So in about, another year or so, we may be doing another one, because it sure hasn't come apart. They haven't been bugging us to do another one yet.
No, well,
we do what they're told.
Busy.
So yeah, but one of these days they'll probably say, yeah. That's fun. Anyway, we have 30 seconds left in this segment, so I think I'll just shut it down and see you on the other side. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Hypnosis Everywhere. And we're going to continue the stories with Gary George. Now, Gary's got a really good story up his sleeve, and I'm going to get him to tell it right now.
So when I was a kid growing up, like I said in the last program there, my mom used to go to these spiritual group meetings and different things and stuff like that. And I remember my grandfather, 1975, he passed away. I remember going into his room, and there's pocketbooks everywhere, and there's one pocketbook flipped upside down by his bed, so he was obviously reading that. I still remember that. And so anyways, my mom and dad cleared out the house, and they fixed it up, and they rented it to different people. And the first person to live there was my mom and dad's really good friend, Bob. He was an early guy. He was a big guy. And I remember the story going around 11:30 at night, the phone rang, and we were all in bed, obviously. But my mom and dad had to run up there right away. They didn't know why. And so the story went. They went up there, and Bob, he thought there was somebody in the basement. And at that time, the house was an old house, an old wartime house, so you had to go outside to go into the basement. So he heard someone rattling around, so he went and got the baseball bat and opened up the basement door, and you could see all these pocketbooks flying through the air. And he closed the door, and he phoned my mom right away because he knew my mom did these spiritual things and go into houses, try to settle them down and stuff. And it's middle of summertime. And my mom and dad got there about 11:45. And here's Bob, this big guy sitting upstairs on the back stairs with a baseball bat. And all he could do was point to the basement. He couldn't speak. He did nothing. Apparently his face was just white. So my mom opened the door, and here's all these pocketbooks flying through the air. And she said, "Dad, if that's you, you have to realize you've passed away. You can't find your pocketbook. You can't read it. You got to go to the other side." And all of a sudden, the pocketbooks just dropped right there on the ground. There's hundreds of them. And that was the end of that. And told Bob, "Well, that was just my dad. It's okay now. He's gone now." But yeah, can you imagine that experience going through the basement and all of a sudden all these pocketbooks flying through the air?
Well, there's lots like that. I remember there one story. I remember you told me that you did a house clearing, and you had said there was a portal through a painting, right?
Yes.
And you told the lady, get rid of that painting and it'll all be done. Just get rid of that painting. So her friend took the painting instead, and guess what?
Yeah.
It all cleaned up at the lady's house because she got rid of the painting, but her friend took the painting.
She liked the painting, and she had troubles too.
So in the end, they did get rid of it.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. The portals are interesting, and it doesn't mean, just like everything else in the world, it's not negative and positive. There's just a mixture of portals work for anything to come through. And being just a photograph or a picture, all those sort of things happen, right?
Yeah,
Gary?
anything can be a portal for sure.
Yeah, those are all such interesting stories. But what I like is that they're all different, because every family gets affected differently when you're house clearing.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I do a lot of different things. I don't just do house clearings. I do one work. I do long distance stuff. I work on people's health, clean out entities from the people or from the house, or deal with just land stuff, and it just goes on and on. There's no end. It's kind of like hypnosis.
Yeah, it's
there's
forever.
no end to it.
There is no end to it. And it's just interesting. We're talking about entities, and what entities can be is a whole bunch of energy. It could be anything. So, but when the land, sometimes you have, you talk about there's a graveyard, there's this, there's that, there's all the energies are in the land. It could have been used for something else. Now, people who are discerning or have that gift that they can see it or feel it, can know those things. The rest of us don't know why we don't feel good there or feel really good there.
So,
right?
So years ago, I worked with my friend Deborah at the very beginning. She's, "Oh, let's go clear houses." I'm like, "Well, what for?" Well, people need help, and blah blah blah. And I said, "Okay." So I remember she phoned me this one day, and his family. This was long ago, but this is over 20-something years ago now. And this poor family had this little boy, 5 years old. He had another brother, and he had to wake up in the middle of the night and have scratches all the way down his back. And he went to different psychiatrists and different things and doctors, and no one could help him, and they didn't know what to do. But yet here's this little boy being tormented all night long, and he was just afraid to be home, afraid to be in his room. So anyways, we went there, and we got the people to leave, and I said, I work with the eagle a lot too, and different spirits, and so anyways, they had left. So we went around the house, and Deborah did her thing. She's a psychic. She did her thing, and I did the drumming and the rattling and the removal of the spirits and whatever was going on. So anyways, it's quite a large house, and we roamed around, we did our thing, and we found out there was this great big thing. I guess if you were to look at it, it'd be kind of like the devilish type things with big fangs and had fingernails and all dressed in black, and was hiding underneath the bed, and I chased it out, and it was hiding, and I got rid of it eventually. And we started looking around, and before the lady left, she gave me this great big stack of papers that the little boy had drawn. There's probably, I don't know, about 30 pictures in there that he drew. And they're all of this scary looking face. So we related it, and it ended up being the same pictures over and over and over in a different light of 2 masks that were on the wall.
Wow.
And I told the lady, we left a big note before we left, and said you had to remove these masks and put them in a box with salt and off their property for 2 years, and different instructions and stuff, and everything would be okay. And so 3 days later, the lady had called Deborah, and Deborah replied the message to me. She said, well, after you left and when we came home, there was an eagle flying over top the house around in a circle, and the boy didn't want to come into the house. And he was kicking and screaming to come in the house. And as soon as he got in there, he ran around and he told his mom, Mommy, the monster is gone now. The monster is gone. Mm-hmm. So interesting how like a portal or something came through a mask, and it just, haunted the boy.
So people will ask you, if you're doing that, then don't you get afraid of that kind of stuff?
I don't, because years ago, one of my lessons, all my lessons just kind of came to me hands-on stuff. Nothing was ever really through a workshop or a mentor, although I listened to Rick the way he spoke about spiritual wars.
And Rick was another shaman who was just older.
Yes, I remember this one day I got pulled to go down to the river, because I would go down to the river all the time way back then. And I found out later on it was a First Nations trail for First Nations people years and years ago, and it was a sacred trail. And a lot of times I got my lessons through there. And this one time, such a strong pull to go, I drove there and I sat there. And I'm looking at the river, but out of my peripheral vision off to the side, I could see this big dark black thing walk up to me. And it reminded me of the Grim Reaper. And I didn't show any fear. And I could, as I tell the story, I know it sounds like way out there, like something you see on TV or something, but to see these hands try to grab me, like go right through my body and grab me. And I said, says, I'm not afraid of you. I said, you can't hurt me. I said, I'm from the light, and I'm working with the light, and you can't hurt me. I just kept going over and over and over. So if you got fear and you stand up to it, it can't hurt you unless you allow it to.
Yeah.
And that's how I got my lesson on how to deal with the darkness.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you show any fear, of course, you lose your power, and they've got the power, because that's what they do is create fear, right? And even if people said, well, this was in your imagination. Wouldn't matter if it was in imagination or reality. It still has that power.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true.
So, but those stories are awesome. But there's one, I was thinking of one just as you were talking that I remember was really interesting, because it was when you, Deborah, me, and Marilyn cleared that area in town. You know what I'm talking about.
We went to this government building, and I think it was the winter time, and the wind was just howling. It was pissing rain, and there a bunch of us went in there, and Marilyn, she was one on her tantrum there, and the spirit took her over, and Inez calmed her down. And people are afraid to go into this one part of the building, just afraid. And someone's got to go. So I'm going to go. I said, I'm going to go into this room, and I'm going to shut the lights off, pitch black, wind blowing, everything else. And as we all walked in there, you could just feel the goosebumps in the back of your neck and your arms and everywhere else. And I said, if I'm not back in 10 minutes, I said, come make sure I'm okay.
So I sat down there and I could just feel and see like just the dark stuff. It was just horrible. And I mean, a lot of the workers didn't even want to come to work anymore. It was so bad. And I remember sitting myself down on that floor and I started banging my drum and calling in my spirits and different things. And I call into this one spirit. How I knew it, I don't know. I just called it in, and this great big shot of lightning came right through me and right through the ground, and it was clear. It was gone. And I stopped drumming, thinking, wow, things feel kind of different now. So I called in the angels and the God and the Spirit and the Buddha, whatever, to recharge it with peace and love. And I walked out of there and told everyone to go look, and everything felt great, and that was the end of it.
Yep. Never had another.
You know, I don't know where it came from, or someone brought it in, or someone put it on somebody, or whatever.
But we always want to know the why they're there or what they're there. But and sometimes you just want to get rid of it and just.
But sometimes we don't know. It's just there.
It's just there.
See, as humans, we need all the answers, but really, we don't.
No, we don't.
We do. We need.
But we always want to know.
Yes.
And look at the mediumship shows. This is sort of. I wasn't even going to go on this. But it's a tangent, and it's really annoys me. Is you watch the ghost hunters, you watch the people doing, mediumship and saying what's here, what's there, and everything, and then, but what they don't do is help the spirit go away to where it needs to be. And I always found that so annoying. Why don't you help those people that are there? They're stuck. Help them instead of just talk about it and use them as.
I know different cities have their ghost tours, and they have this and they have that. Yeah. And they'll come see the haunted house, and I mean, we all look at things different. And the way I look at things, if there's a spirit caught there, it needs to go. You just send it off with peace and love, and then it can reincarnate into a different life as somebody else.
Okay, just because I started that story, we're going to come back and finish it. So we're going off to the other side. We'll see you then. Yeah, that's where I'm already with Gary. I'm on the other side. I'm not on the other side. We're coming. That's funny. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Hypnosis Everywhere. And we were telling you a great story. So, Gary, I'm just going to get you to finish it up or add anything to it you want to add.
I think I'll call it good.
Okay. That's the sort of thing that happens. It's suddenly you were talking about you were in the flow, and then the story's over. You got the gist of it. Now,
yeah.
So
I remember years ago, my friend Deborah, I mean, she's a psychic, she knows things. I mean, I thought she was amazing, which she still is. I mean, everyone wants a reading for her, man. She's unreal. Oh yeah. We have our own little group, and it's just life. It's not a big deal anymore. But I remember years ago her calling me up when I first started coming into the stuff. And I maybe had one drum and maybe 2 or 3 rattles at the very most. And she lived in a different town than I lived. I remember her phoning me in the afternoon one day. And I think it was actually a Saturday. And my girls, because I was a single parent for 9 years, and my girls were out. And I was home by myself. And she phoned me, and she was in such pain. She wanted to know if I could help her. I said, well, help her like what? Oh, can you just send something to help me? I said, well, what are you talking about? Send what? What do you? I wasn't quite understanding. Well, you can do long distance stuff. I said, well, what's that? I don't know what that is. Well, just try. Just try. I said, well, what do I do? She said, well, just focus and send whatever just to help me out. So I said, okay, well, sure, I'll give it a shot. I mean, what the hell? Wasn't too long ago, I was banging my hands on desks, and next thing I was seeing spirits and this and that. So I remember going into my room and not knowing what I'm doing or how to go about it or anything. So I sat there on my bed, started banging my drum and closing my eyes and concentrating and using my rattles. And I could see this big tunnel that connected me to where she was. And the tunnel was a big tunnel. It kind of went back and forth a bit. It was like in purples and it was in pinks. I guess they were healing colors, I guess. And this tunnel went to where she was, and I could see her laying on the bed and what she was wearing, what kind of clothes she had on. And the tunnel was a big circle, and it just went right around her. And so I started pulling things out and pushing things in and doing all sorts of different things. And at the very end, I took this great big huge breath, and I just blew everything of myself down to this tunnel and just to blow everything away. And after I was done, I sat there for a couple of minutes. My eyes were closed, and it took everything I had to open my eyes. And when I opened my eyes were just so sore. It's like, wow, what was going on? I was like, wow, I'm shaking my head. And I didn't realize I put myself in hypnosis. I didn't know it was hypnosis.
Hypnosis is everything everywhere.
It probably took me about 10 minutes to come back and what the hell just happened? Why did I see this? Why did I do this? So she phones me back, and about 20 minutes later, and she thanked me. I said, well, thank me for what? She said, oh my gosh. She says, thank you. I feel so much better. I said, well, what did you see? She said, well, I'm laying there. And I said, well, what did you have on? And she described what she had on. I said, oh my God. I said, I saw that. That's why you're laying. You're laying on your bed and what you're wearing. And then she says, oh, I saw this big tunnel and it had purples and pinks. I said, no way. I can see that. And
now
she says,
normal.
I could feel things moving around, and at the very end, I could feel this great big wind that just blew right through me, and it was just something lingering around. It was just gone. And man, I just couldn't believe it. I was stunned. It's like, well, you saw the same thing that I did, and she felt better, and like, wow, it was just amazing.
That's the beginning of a journey.
And then as time goes on and years go on, it's not a big deal anymore.
No. And it really doesn't make a difference if you're right next to Gary or if you're in Germany or Scotland or anywhere else, because it doesn't matter. There's no distance in that.
Now, a lot of my clients and stuff, I never even meet them. I never see a picture of them. I get an email or a voicemail on that. That's about it.
They tell you what's wrong and go from there.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. And I give thanks about 10 or 15 times a day for allowing me to be who I am, because in this world, all we are supposed to be is who we are, not someone we're not. Plain and simple.
And talk about that. That isn't so easy. I mean, you come from a Catholic background.
That's right.
Your mom was a little bit more on the spiritual side, but the whole family was Catholic, and it was all done.
Oh, I think
so. You had a bit of a familial.
I think it scared the hell out of my dad and my family, and for a long, long time, I didn't see anybody because they didn't know me anymore. I'm not Gary anymore. I'm somebody different.
Yeah, and they were afraid that maybe you'd gone off your noodle.
Yeah, well, my brother said, well, maybe you're schizophrenic.
Oh.
I said, no, I don't think so. Well, why are you seeing things? Why are you knowing things? Maybe nothing's real.
It's a little bit, but did you tell him that nothing really is real?
Well, that's
a whole other story.
My take is I don't believe anything down here is real. We allow it to be real to have the human experience, because all we really are is these spirits having these human experiences as different people, as in different lifetimes.
Yeah.
I believe that's all it is. You might run into someone you've never seen before in your life, and you just know that person. Yeah. Well, you know that
everybody's
spirit.
Run into
you
that.
know the spirit inside of the person, not necessarily this person.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really quite interesting down here.
Sure, and you meet that person, they have, and you go, oh, I really like that person, or the other way around, whichever.
Yeah.
And then you say, well, gee, that's interesting, and you just really connected to that person so quickly, and that's usually
and sometimes there's karmas, and sometimes there's past life things, and there's this and this. I mean, it just doesn't end.
But I mean, the whole idea that Gary and I talk about is that he likes to clear the spirit to where they need to go. It isn't just about getting rid of it, right? It gets taken to where it needs to be.
Yeah.
So it's just like if you just have a regular spirit, like a human being that's passed on, and they don't know they're dead. That's an issue. So you just take them. I mean, I do it differently than he does, but that you just take them.
Yeah. And we all do it different. We all do what we feel is right for us, and there's no right or wrong really. We just do things different, which is.
But all it is the more you help people dead, as we call them, or alive, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Either one.
Yeah. I remember years ago. Going to meditation class. I talked about that before.
Yeah, you did.
The last time.
It was a good story, though.
I remember there's this old guard used to sit there in the front all the time. He was the night watchman. And I would bump into him every once in a while. He was an older guy in his 70s, I guess. And, every time I seen him, which wasn't every single time, every week, but I want to put my hands on him. And I don't know why. I just wanted to put my hands on this guy. And I said, hey, I don't know why. I said, I want to put my hands on you, one on your chest and one on your back, if that's okay. And so he says, yeah, sure. So I'd do that for a couple of minutes. And when it felt right, that would be it. And I would walk away. And this went on for months and months. And next thing you know, I didn't see him. He was gone. I didn't see him. He retired, I guess. I didn't see him anymore. And I remember about 3 years later, the phone rang, and it was him. He says, is this Gary? And I said, yeah. He said, oh, I don't know if you remember me. It's Peter, the security guard. I said, yeah, Peter, hey, how are you? I haven't talked to you for a long time. He says, I just wanted to say thank you. I said, thank you for what? He says, all those times you put your hands on me? I said, yeah. He says, I had problems with my lungs, water going in my lungs all the time. And the next day after you worked on me, I'd always go to the doctor, as well as 2 or 3 times a week as well. But every time you worked on me, I went to the doctor, there was no water in my lungs. And the doctor couldn't figure what was going on. And he had said, well, this guy, Gary, who goes to meditation class, works on me. And eventually it went away. So he phoned to thank me that after so many months, it just left. It's gone. Mm-hmm. I don't know what I was doing or why in those days, but all I knew is that I just had to, you know. So, yeah.
I know. And that's once you start sort of following, well, in your case, what you call spirit telling you what to do, and or other people who are just intuitive and get the feeling to do it, you know, it doesn't matter how you get it and what caliber of feeling it is or knowing or saying. If you start, you know, we always say, you know, if I don't listen to my gut, I always make a mistake, right? People say, I made that decision with my gut and it worked out really well.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to listen to yourself and let yourself be guided. Yeah. Sometimes it doesn't seem right or whatever, but, you know, so, I'm not saying every single time, but, you know, sometimes because we get lost in our head, or, you know, in our conscious mind.
And, you know, we are the only beings that have that conscious mind. We're the only ones that can get in trouble with that because the other ones are intuitive because it's instinctual, right? Anyway, so that's just a little thing to say, you know, you've probably had the same experience on a smaller level. And the thing with Gary is he sort of just got it real quick and got sort of battered at the beginning.
Yeah.
It was a little battering. And, you know, thinking he was a little insane, all those sort of things. Yeah. But then it turned out that he wasn't insane.
But, you know, as more people come and tell our stories about different life experiences and stuff, other people, sometimes they don't have anyone to talk to because they're going to think they're crazy or this or that. But if you find out there's other people who've been through similar stories, you kind of relate, you know, thinking you're not the only one out there.
It's just like the people who had near-death experiences that now everybody has, you know, talks about them. Because but one time when Raymond Moody wrote that book, that first book, nobody was talking about it. Yeah.
Well, you know, I haven't had a barbecued steak in a while. I sat there and man, I thought I was died and went to heaven. Near-death experience right there.
You're too funny.
Yeah.
But you did, you know, a lot of us have that, what near-death experiences that we talk about. And other people say, well, gee, I don't remember anything. And that's just the way it is. Because normally, I think most of the time, you're not supposed to remember while you're still functioning down here for most people.
Yeah. Well, I told a story last time I was laying in the hospital bed and my experience was Archangel Michael and death experience and stuff. And I mean, you know, the more you're open, the more you'll understand and the more things that may happen and experiences. And, you know, we all have things to say, but sometimes we're just closed off and we're afraid of other people judging us.
And be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. That's right. But yeah, in August,
lack of sleep comes up.
Yeah, in August, me and my wife were headed to Ireland and Scotland and being pulled there. So I'm really looking forward to that, and I can feel and see the spirits already and the different things. And looking forward to our trip for sure. It'd be nice.
Did we tell them the story about your uncle? I think we did, didn't we?
My uncle? Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah.
Anyway, so go back to the other show if you want to hear that story.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Gary does a lot of stuff, and I've seen him work with people who are ill. I've seen him work with people who have the spirit issues, and he does it very easily, and it seems quite quick to us. Anyway, we'll talk about some more things when we come back. See you on the other side. Are we on the third one?
2.
Hello, and everybody can just welcome back to Hypnosis Everywhere. And this, I just wanted to ask Gary George, you want to say any last second things as we're going to go into his famous drumming. And so you want to say anything before we do that? I just
want to say thank you all for listening. Thank you for having me on your show, and we'll see you maybe next year.
Yeah, and then maybe all you have to do to get his website and all that stuff is go to the show page, and his website is, Gary?
Is greywolfspiritmedicine.com.
So we're just going to go through that, and afterwards I'll come back in, but we're going to start that drumming so that you can have it. And if you don't get a really good sample of it, it'll be on Hypnosis Everywhere on our page. Thank you very much. And, thanks, Gary, for doing that pre-record on that drumming. It's always different, the drumming. It's just incredible to me, and how much you can feel, sense, or know it. And everyone knows in the room who listens to it, everyone feels something slightly different. So this is our last show on this segment of our thing. We'll be back in July because we're taking a break and we're going on a teaching tour to do Simpson protocol. So I'll be in Europe and Australia, but I will keep current and we'll be able to access all our shows. So thank you for Gary being here. And will you please say goodbye again?
Okay, goodbye. Thank you.
All right. So we'll see you next time, sometime in July live. And thank you so much for supporting me through this whole first season. Thank you very much. See you next time in July. Bye.